Legends in Wildcatting panel with Bill Armstrong.
Wow. I thought you had to be dead to be a legend. I may be dead, I don't even know it yet. It's like the sixth sense, I'm walking around and, anyway.
So when our HGS Vice President, Linda Sternbach, asked Bill Armstrong to do this presentation, and Bill accepted, I was ecstatic, because I had the good fortune to work with Bill on a couple of projects, and our most recent project, Bill, was in August in Houston, that special time of year, but it was an image. And I want you to know that Bill's talk was the most attended and talked about afterwards presentation of the whole conference.
Well, I'm gonna talk about that tonight.
Yeah.
Everybody came to that night. That was Discovery Thinking, and we had Eastern Mediterranean, Namibia, something in Turkey, and us. And everybody came to see Namibia and Eastern Mediterranean, but they all left talking about Alaska.
Well, you rocked the house. That was a program with Mike Forrest, and when I got good news for everybody. Guess what? Tonight's going to be better. All right. Why? Because when you're at a conference, you only get a short talk. We got Bill all evening.
Good Lord.
He's promised to answer questions, and I know the questions are going to be good because we have wine. Now,
really good one.
Really good wine. Thanks to Bill and Liz Armstrong and Epic. And as they say, in vino veritas. So, why do we do these programs? Because we want to take lessons on how to find giant fields so we can find more, and we want to mentor. So, let's get in a time machine, everybody. See this poster over here? This poster dates back 24 years. So from Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, 24 years ago, we had the very first Legends program, January 10th, to celebrate Spindletop, right? Obvious, everybody knows Spindletop is the start. At the very first panel we did, we had some all-star lineup, but we had a guy named George Mitchell, and he told us that completion technology, horizontal drilling, hydraulic fracturing was going to rock our world. And a lot of us were like, wow, this is kind of news to us. But HGS members heard it first, and we heard it from the horse's mouth. And guess what? George Mitchell and a lot of these early Legend Wildcatters, thanks to Linda Sternbach, and the HGS Geoeducation YouTube, you can go and listen. So we had so much fun the first time that in 2003, when Denise Stone was president, we organized another Legends panel. So if you're going to organize a Legend panel at that time, you have to have Mike Halbouty, right? So I go to see Mike in his Galleria office. And Mike goes, hey, that's a great idea, Charles, but I can't do it. No can do.
That sounds like Mike.
I've had a little experience. I got a big meeting at the Waldorf Astoria. It's very important. I'm sorry, but no. Mike, this is right up your alley. We need you. Back and forth, half an hour. I'm not leaving. He hasn't thrown me out. We're still looking at each other. Finally, he says, I'm just curious. Who else you got? I go, well, we got Robbie Grease, first woman president of APG, and she's done some amazing things. We have a guy named Bill Barrett. He's found 7 multi-TCF gas giants in the Rockies. We have another fellow, Tom. He's found a 100 million barrel oil field when he was still a graduate student. And we have one other, a guy you may have heard of, Marvin Davis. He's drilled 10,000 wildcats, and he gave us the phrase third for a quarter. So Mike looks at me. I can see that he knows this isn't going to go his way. He says, Charles, those guys are all right, but you need a real wildcatter. So he yells to his assistant, Mary Stewart. Some of you may have met Mary. Mary's in the other room, and he's got an intercom on his desk that I've never seen him use because he'd rather yell to Mary. Mary, call New York, reschedule the thing. I got to do this wildcatter panel. Now that's a wildcatter. And so
that is a good Halbouty story. Can I tell another Halbouty story? Is my mic on too loud?
You can never have enough Halbouty stories.
I was 25 years old, and I'm selling this dog shit deal in the deep DJ Basin. And I go see Mike Halbouty in his office. I was 25 years old, one of my first deals ever as an independent, and he loves it. And Mike starts listening to me, and we get to the end of the presentation, and he says, Bill, I like this. What do you want for it? And I said, well, I want my money back, plus a little walking around money, and third for a quarter. And he looks at me and he goes, and I said, what? And I go, Mr. Halbouty, what are you talking about? He said, Bill, I'm serious. Fuck you. And we just start going up and up and up. And it got to the end where we finally stopped shouting at each other, and I go, Mr. Halbouty, I cannot believe this is happening because, dude, you're a legend, and I have you on such a pedestal. I mean, dude, I read your book. And he goes, you read my book? I'll take your deal. So that was my Mike Halbouty story.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And we were great friends till the day he died.
After that, you were in.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's like a Persian Lebanese rug bazaar with Mike Halbouty.
So those are the first two. We're off to a good start. Now, how many here were at Legends 2000 or 2003?
By the way, did you mention Bill Barrett? Are you going to talk about him again? So let me tell you about a deal I did with Bill Barrett.
Take it away.
I mean, because I'm off the record tonight, right? So I'm showing a deal. This is now like when I'm 27 years old, and I'm doing a thrust belt deal in Wyoming, and I've got Bill Barrett and his whole team there, and I got my whip smart geophysicist, and Bill Barrett has his hotshot exploration manager, a guy named Paul Rady. Y'all know Paul Rady? He's now the CEO of Antero, made a ton of money and everything. At the time, he was fresh out of Amoco, and I'm showing him this awesome deal, and we're going up to this well that looked really good, and super complicated geology and geophysics. And my super smart geophysicist gets in a smart contest with Paul Rady. And Paul Rady and him were starting to talk about how I migrated the seismic and da-da-da-da-da-da. And it went on and on and on. And it was like this complete debacle of a smart contest. And I finally turned to Bill Barrett and I went like, and he turns to his exploration manager, Paul Rady, and says, Paul, it's up dip to a show. How's that for just like laying it out like old school?
End of story.
The end of story. They took the deal and it worked.
Well,
So,
yeah. So, Bill, we got a few more of your friends we're going to talk about here.
oh yeah?
Yeah. So once we got started, and we had a couple of good, the early Legends ones, we had Legends in sedimentology. We had legendary fields. And then we had Boone Pickens. Well, I know you know Boone.
Boone is the greatest guy. I mean, I met Boone when I was 16 years old and living in Abilene, and I was caddying for him. He was coming down from Amarillo, and we stayed really, really good friends up until a point right before he passed away. He was 92 years old. This is a couple years ago. And I go see him, and he's like a dad. And Boone and I had seen so many things through the years and had done so many incredible things together. And here I am talking to him, and he's clearly not doing well. And and I'm just so happy to be with him in one of his last days. And he goes, Bill, I got a deal you got to take. And he starts pitching me this deal in the Granite Wash play of the Panhandle of Texas, the shittiest deal you've ever fucking seen. And all I could think of was like, I cannot believe this Wildcatter, Boone Pickens, up to the day, right before he passes away, is pitching me the coolest deal. Anyway, I love that about him.
Yeah.
You know, once a Wildcatter, always a Wildcatter.
Once you start, you can't quit.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Well, let's shout out just a few more folks. We've had a program for Legends of HGS and APG presidents. So there was a panel with, you can see some of the past folks there. But John Tubb reminded me, we have a few new folks that are in this category, like our current president, HGS President Paul Britt. He's been an APG president, and sitting right next to Paul, sharing some of that wine, is Deborah Saki. She's APG president-elect, and she's been HGS president.
Well, you're president-elect? And next to her, Cindy Yielding, who just got into the Hall of Fame of Legends by Hard Energy. Yep.
We're going to get to Cindy
and next to her is Federico, who found more fields than anybody you've ever met. He found Perla in Venezuela and Amoca in Mexico. And next to him is Brad Juno, who found 60 or more fields in the Gulf of Mexico. So we're living the dream, baby.
Federico, this book is yours. So, by the way, the Alaska and Federico's discoveries, Amoca in the Sureste Basin, are written in Memorial 125. Just thought I'd mention.
That was a pretty good chapter. It wasn't as good as a chapter on our field, but it was pretty good.
We've had legends in sedimentology, legendary mentors, legendary geophysicists who impacted geologists. Again, thank you, Deborah Sacred. And then a fellow named John Tubb. John, where are you? There you are. John had the idea that since we're having a lot of fun with these incredible people, that we should combine them with our scholarship night. And John and Jeff Lund, who's right here, and Dick Bishop, who's not here tonight, and Joe Lynch, and the committees for the HGS Scholarship Fund, we've had a series of programs, thanks to John, and you can see right there the good that it's done. That's a lot of dough and a lot of students, and it's that fellow over there on the left. And John, stand up. And one of those programs, Cindy, here's your shout out. We had an incredible program with you and Bobby Ryan, telling some great stories from careers. And then back to Jeff Lund again. Jeff had this idea that we should get Jessica Watkins. Now, you may not know Jessica Watkins, but give it a few years, and I'm pretty sure you're going to hear a lot about Jessica Watkins, because she's the only geologist so far that Jack Schmidt's the only geologist so far who's walked on the moon, but Jessica's in the Artemis program. And Jeff is handing her a Mars globe to keep on her desk so she can kind of remember where she's someday going, we hope. And just to show you how goofy I am, I took a picture of her feet. Those are her feet, because they're going to walk on the moon and Mars. Okay, so we had some pretty great inspirational programs. And here's all of the folks that have been part of these various things over the years. Which brings us to tonight and this guy right here. That's Bill. Can you recognize him?
Yes.
And there's the cover of the HGS Bulletin. January HGS Bulletin just hit the downloads. And look at that. Oh, hey, Bill, can you point out the pay? See, there's a seismic line. Yeah. And there's pay there.
Pay to hearing. All that's pay. I'll talk about why that's important right there. But there you go.
And I know we had a little trouble with weather today, but I'm telling you, weather that we had today is nothing like what Bill's experienced.
That was 77 below wind chill that day.
Here's Bill in his Denver office, and I'm pretty sure those are cliniforms, right, Bill?
Yes.
You're going to hear a lot about cliniforms tonight. They're on the cover, they're in the book, Memorial 125, and one of the things, I've got a copy of it here, is we're seeing the last couple of decades more stratigraphic and combination traps than ever before being found. Blue is carbonates, yellow is sand. Tonight we're going to hear about the great sand reservoirs up in on the North Slope. And those of you who've heard comments before, Bill's going to share with us, here's the outline for tonight. He's going to share exploration philosophy, going to share stories about Alaska and discovery, and take questions, so everybody be thinking questions. And one of the things as we talk about oil and gas finding, these are the things we've all been classically trained, right? Technology, source rock, reservoir traps, analogs, economics, and how do we put them together in a creative way. You're going to hear a lot of that tonight. So this is my final slide. Thank you, Bill, for letting me use it. I love this slide. So let's take a moment here. On the right, those of us here in Texas know the East Texas field, right? We know the Daisy Bradford discovery well, then the step out to the Lutdell Crim, and 25 miles from the Daisy Bradford was the Latham discovery in East Texas. Now, Bill and I were talking about that this weekend. They didn't realize it was one big field yet, because, 30,000 wells had to be drilled to define that. This thing was so big that it just blew everybody's mind. Now, if you look on the left, this is what Bill's going to talk to us about tonight. This is the Pica field. The discovery well, correct me if I get it wrong, Bill, but it's the Cougarak number 3.
Yep.
You want gutsy? They drilled the horseshoe number 1, 1 miles to the south. And it worked. And Bill, you got to tell us how you were feeling when that happened.
No, nobody understands the significance of a gigantic discovery. It reaches to your core. I'll tell you all about how we came up with that idea in a little bit.
And just to make it better, there's a guy named Bob Snyder. Bill DeMis, you and I had lunch with him one time. Bill used to teach bypass pays and bypass plays for Southwestern Energy and other companies. And Bob Snyder's famous for saying every oil and gas field, on average, has 2.5 wells already in it at the time of discovery. Just wasn't recognized. And it's like, no way, that can't be. How could somebody miss something? Okay, there's low resistivity pay up here. And Bill, part of your story is you guys saw some things that others did. So here's the question from Bill Lancaster, our buddy in Denver. I was in contact with him this week, and I said, Bill, what's a good way to hand over to Bill? He said, just ask Bill Armstrong how an independent, small independent company in Denver can go to Alaska and run with the big dogs. So take it away, Bill.
I don't.
I'm going to set up your slides here.